Well, another season of The Bad Batch has concluded. And, well, man, there is a lot of things to talk about in today's video in regards to The Bad Batch. So, want you to go ahead, get some chicken, get you some Red Bull, and we are going to talk about The Bad Batch. Also, by the way, I stopped drinking these every single day. But I'm slowing down on those a little bit here. But anyways, going back to Star Wars here for a bit. What did I think of Bad Batch Season 2 finale? What did I think of it? In short, I thought it was great. I thought that it was a really good way to end off this season. And also, I got to give credit to just the writers and everyone here about The Bad Batch. And that is just really this. And that is, this season of The Bad Batch it was an improvement from last season, especially from season 1. But it makes us want more. And I'm going to explain to you all as to why we want more. So with that being said, let's get into it. Episode 15 is titled The Summit. The Bad Batch have concluded that they need to go to Eriadu, which is the home planet of Grand Moff Tarkin, or as of the time of this, when the series takes place, he is known as just Governor Tarkin, of course, and all that sort of stuff. So the Bad Batch are going to head off to Eriadu, and well, before they do, there was a little scene between Tech and also Fee, the pirate lady that the Bad Batch have been following for quite a while now, and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, Fee basically just tells Tech, see you around, Brown Eyes, which, I don't know, every time I see Brown Eyes, I just think of that episode in The Mandalorian when Din had to take his helmet off. It was in season 2 where he was with Migs Mayfield, aka Bill Burr, and Bill Burr called him, Brown Eyes and all that sort of stuff. I don't know. I was like, that's kind of funny. But anyways, though, so the Bad Batch head off to Eriadu, and it's a pretty cool, exciting mission. The Bad Batch, of course, are able to get onto the planet. They have to go through these rail cars. They shoot their way through the TK troopers and all that sort of stuff. And, of course, the reason why they're on Eriadu in the first place is because of Dr. Hemrock, who, of course, is the creepy doctor that we've been seeing throughout most of the series, is on Eriadu. And, of course, he is there with Grand Moff Tarkin. There is this little meeting of them discussing about things when it comes to the galaxy, just the normal, typical stuff. Cloning, taking down insurgents, also Project Stardust. Oh yeah, also, by the way, Director Krennic is there, also being voiced by Ben Mendelsohn, who this kind of confirms that, oh shit, Ben Mendelsohn is doing some Star Wars again. Could he possibly appear in Andor Season 2? I know they're filming that series right now, the final season of Andor, which, by the way, I'm actually very excited for the next season of Andor. Why does that have to come in 2024? But anyways, what happens here is Tarkin and the rest of the Imperials are discussing about the cloning and all that sort of stuff. Tarkin is, of course, expressing his thoughts and saying that cloning is just so expensive and all that sort of stuff, and they need to focus on something more better. However, Dr. Hemrock has basically said, no, Palpatine wants us to continue cloning and all that sort of stuff. Which, of course, as we all know, yeah, we basically know what that actually leads up to. One thing that I actually kind of want to talk about here, and that is, I don't mind the fact that they're kind of focusing so much on cloning, or I guess the Empire having so much focus on cloning. And to be really fair, while I hate The Rise of Skywalker, and I really do kind of hate that movie, it honestly makes sense to me as to why Palpatine would want to clone himself, to transfer his consciousness into a separate body. Because, I don't know, literally Palpatine wants to be the ruler of the galaxy, the eternal Sith Lord, and all that sort of stuff. Something like that happened in Star Wars Legends. That's what I like to think. But really, we don't really have much answers to that. And once again, I kind of would really wish if the Bad Batch and even, of course, the Mandalorian would just not try to fix the sequel trilogy's problems, but rather, I don't know, the sequel trilogy should have, I don't know, I'm getting off track here, but anyways, what happens here is that the Bad Batch are, of course, continuing the mission, and they are wondering, our mission is kind of going pretty smoothly here. Why is that? And then we find out why it's going so smoothly. Saw Gerrera shows up and pretty much fucks everything over. You see, of course, as we all know, Saw Gerrera is a Rebels extremist. Empire, don't care if they're good or bad. Shoot them, shoot them, shoot them. F the Empire and all that sort of stuff. And the Bad Batch are trying to tell, of course, freaking Saw Gerrera, yeah, if you kill Grand Moff Tarkin, or if you kill Tarkin, it actually is also funny too. Krennic is also there. Imagine they all die, then yeah, that probably would have pushed things back a little bit. But then the Bad Batch then say, you're not really going to do much because the Empire can just simply replace Tarkin, Krennic, and of course also Dr. Hemrock. But of course Saw Gerrera doesn't really freaking see that, which, as I said before, basically Saw Gerrera being there just fucks everything over. And meanwhile, Omega and Wrecker are trying to get the beacon onto, of course, Hemrock's ship and all that sort of stuff. The Bad Batch then conclude that they now have to escape, and then Saw Gerrera is able to escape in an Imperial shuttle and is able to not blow up the base, but really kind of more or less blow up the hangar. That's pretty much all he does, is just blow up the hangar, which kind of is damn, your mission kind of failed there. You kind of failed to kill Tarkin and all that sort of stuff. Which, honestly, hey, I don't really kind of care if Saw Gerrera were to kill Tarkin and all that sort of stuff. Honestly, I mean, it's kind of funny how... One thing I also kind of have to mention, is speaking of which of Tarkin, is just kind of... The simple fact of the matter is that I think Grand Tarkin is one of the most underrated Star Wars villains that we probably have out there. Now, a lot of people probably have Vader, Palpatine, high on their list of Star Wars villains. And, there are other villains out there, like other Sith Lords, like Darth Maul, Count Dooku, General Grievous, or, even the Empire and all that sort of stuff. But I really have to say that Tarkin is really one of the most, I think, in my opinion, the most underrated Star Wars villain out there. Just the simple fact is that while he doesn't have the Force, and he doesn't have the Force, he's not a powerful warrior, the dude is a cold, sadistic, psychopathic, and also an empathetic, evil bastard. Like, just cold-hearted and all that sort of stuff. Just, damn. I really do hope that they do focus a little bit more on Tarkin and kind of a future story. Like, it'd be kind of cool if he showed up in Andor, and I don't know, we can see what really goes through the mind of that evil bastard. Which is proven here once again, as the Bad Batch are trying to escape onto the rail cars once again, as that's how they got out, that's how they got in to the base initially, and all that sort of stuff, and whatnot sort of have you. And Tarkin basically orders some of the V-Wings to go out there and to kill, or to basically shoot down the Bad Batch, and doesn't care if any of the other stormtroopers are caught in the crossfire. Which once again shows that the bastard is just cruel and doesn't even care about his own men. I mean, if I heard that coming from Tarkin, I was like, what the hell am I doing? If I was one of those stormtroopers. Which, also one other thing I also have to give credit also to this finale is also just the TK troopers in general. Now, the TK troopers, and honestly, my opinion, is what the First Order stormtroopers should have been in terms of design. Like, their design looks really cool, and also, they are very cool also as well. And I also really think that as well, that they are also, one thing that I have to say is a very big improvement from this show, especially from Rebels, is kind of treating the stormtroopers more as a threat. Like, I honestly feel like the stormtroopers here are more of a threat than they were, in Rebels. That's something that I think is greatly improved upon when it comes to, Star Wars, the Bad Batch, and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, the Bad Batch are stuck because one of the rails from the rail car comes off, the wheels comes off, and basically they need to get the thing rolling back again. Of course, Tech is going to try to see what he can do on top. And then, of course, Echo's going to try to see if he can relieve some power and all that sort of stuff, maybe to the engines and whatnot, sort of have you. Tech, of course, falls off because freaking V-Wings are shooting them out of the sky. And then, well, the biggest moment of the episode comes here. Tech is hanging on to a rope. His weight is pulling down the car. His weight is pulling them down. And he probably knows at that point that he needs to sever the connection in order for the Bad Batch to survive. He then tells Wrecker, Plan 99. Wrecker says, don't do it. But then, of course, Tech pulls out the blaster and is like, when have we ever followed orders? Shoots the line, or not really shoots the line, shoots the connection, and then he falls and presumably falls to his death, which then gets the rail car going, and the Bad Batch are able to get going once again. But the rail car is going super damn fast, and they crash hard. Basically, Omega is basically in a freaking war. It's basically like in that one scene in Saving Private Ryan and all that sort of stuff. Basically, from a POV shot, she's waking up and, knocking out again while the Bad Batch are trying to run, getting back to the Marauder. And then we catch up with the Bad Batch back on Ord Mantell, which is the planet where Sid's bar is at. And this is a part of the episode. Actually, also, by the way, we're now in episode 16 now, which is Plan 99. But anyways, what happens here is that, this is basically where I guess really kind of the plot of the episode kind of falls for some people. So a lot of people are, of course, just really, really, kind of really Hunter really looks bad for this perspective, because why would you go to Sid for help and all that sort of stuff? Now, okay, here's the thing. I get why you need to go there, because LZ is there, and all that sort of stuff. He can help Omega and also help with their injuries and all that sort of stuff. But then that also then follows up with another kind of plot hole, and that is basically, why didn't they go back to Pabu and all that sort of stuff? Like, why didn't they just go back there? Because I'm pretty sure, hey, I think that society probably does have doctors and all that sort of stuff. People are living there pretty good. So there's probably a doctor down there or something like that. Or hell, you probably could have just said, hey, Sid, we just need LZ. And they just go away and then need to go to Pabu, where, LZ then, of course, fixes or, make sure Omega and the Bad Batch aren't hurt. Well, they are hurt emotionally and all that sort of stuff. And, there's, of course, this scene where Hunter basically just has to tell Omega that Tech's gone and all that sort of stuff. He basically, Tech basically sacrificed himself so the Bad Batch can escape from Ariadu and all that sort of stuff. Omega denies that Tech is dead, which I have to kind of just say, I kind of do hope Tech is dead, but I'm going to explain why. I'm going to explain why as we kind of talk about the season overall and all that sort of stuff. So then what happens here is that Sid, basically Wrecker's at a bar, Sid fixes him a drink, and then we catch Echo outside with the Marauder, and Sid sells out the Bad Batch to the Empire, and the Empire are on the doorstep of her bar. She's paid a pretty good price. Hemrock then has alongside with other Imperial commandos show up, has the Bad Batch at gunpoint, and basically says, oh yeah, Tech, this is what we found of him. And he throws Hunter the goggles and basically forces him to surrender and all that sort of stuff. While that happens, Omega is also, at the same time as well, is ordered to run away. But she denies that order and instead stays behind so she can help, of course, her brothers and all that sort of stuff. And so what happens here is that of course, Hunter and Wrecker are being escorted out. Presumably, they're going to be taking off to the shuttle. But Omega fires a shot, an arrow at them and all that sort of stuff. But then our boy Scorch comes down, stuns Omega, and then from that point onwards, it's over for the Bad Batch. They are able to destroy some of the walkers and all that sort of stuff, some of the LAT gunships, but it's just not going to be enough. Hemrock is able to get out of Ord Mantell with Omega in his captivity, and the Bad Batch, they have to make a run for it. What happens then? They make a run for it, and well, the Bad Batch have lost. This is the Empire Strikes Back of the Bad Batch. Our heroes have lost. And not only did they lose Echo, but they lost Omega. And from that point onward, and from that point, Hunter vows that they are going to get Omega back in any way they can. And they're not going to give up. However, though, it does not end there. We then, of course, go back to Mount Tantus, where, of course, Omega is being transported to. Lama Su, I think is her name is at the planet. She doesn't look at Omega or even speak to her. And one of the female scientists that we saw last time escorts Omega to this cloning lab. Where there we see a whole bunch of clones hooked up to this machine and all that sort of stuff. We also see Crosshair is there hooked up and whatnot, sort of have you. And then the episode ends with the female scientist saying, "You trust Lama Say, but you don't trust me." Omega then says, "I don't know you." The female scientist or nurse kneels down, says, "You know me better than I think." She takes off the goggles and says, "Omega, we are sisters." And then the season ends right there. So that raises up a whole bunch of questions. Now, the theory of the nurse, or I don't really know, I don't even know if she has a name, was it was speculated that she was going to be some kind of clone of Omega, or some kind of female clone of Omega, or another female clone of Jango Fett, which then sparks a whole bunch of other questions. But honestly, going into this whole entire episode, my expectations were basically through the roof, or basically what I thought was going to happen didn't happen. And these last two episodes were just, damn. This finale was great. I think it's better than the first season. I think it's better than the first season's finale. And I arguably have to say, this season overall, I liked more than last season. That is definitely for sure. Last season felt like it was just a waste of time and all that sort of stuff. And just the finale, I don't know, left a sour taste in my mouth. Of course, I'm not pissed off the fact that they destroyed Camino. It makes sense for a story structure. But it's just kind of just like the simple fact of the matter is, it's just like, I don't know. I just did not like the first season and the finale, not that much. But this season has felt like an improvement a lot. I felt like the characters were a lot more better. Crosshair and Tech were some of the best characters. Now, you know me, Crosshair is my personal favorite, but Tech has to be the MVP of the season. Echo, I felt like, was a lot more better in this season. I'm just basically running for the characters. Omega and Wrecker were a bit more better in this season, but the one character that felt flat, and it's the leader of the Bad Batch himself, that being Hunter himself. Now, Hunter basically just has had no character development, or just nothing to his character at all throughout this season, or really throughout this season at all. Just hardly went through any sort of development, and the one thing that I actually do hope in what happens here in season 2, then season 3, which I hope to God we do get a season 3. I hope they announce it at Celebration. I want to know, are we going to get Bad Batch season 3? And the kind of like, here's kind of the thing about Tech's death. And I really kind of want to talk about Tech's death here for just one moment. Tech's death, of course, was handled very well, in my opinion. I was thrown completely off guard, and I honestly hope that Tech is dead. Like, he's officially dead, and that and all that sort of stuff. Now, a lot of people are gonna say Hemrock is lying and all that sort of stuff, and they have Tech in their possession. But I mean, I don't know. I really want Tech to be dead. Not only because, we just focused so much on Tech throughout the whole entire season. There's a whole entire episode where he was a race car or a racer, where he was racing, and all that sort of stuff. Whatnot sort of have you. And the reason why I would want Tech to basically be dead is because it can also be a good kind of character development. It could be kind of a good character development for Omega. It could be a big turning point for her where she basically now she grows up. It's basically like the maturity like Luke went through for the original trilogy. And all that sort of stuff, after his defeat to Darth Vader and after the secret is revealed. This really did feel like The Empire Strikes Back. Our heroes lose. There's a big secret that is revealed. And, of course, our characters are going to, of course, try to regroup and go back to, of course, fight another day. And all that sort of stuff. So I really do hope Omega, this really does make Omega mature more and kind of makes her, basically at this point, she's no longer a child anymore. Basically, hell now, she has to basically now grow up and all that sort of stuff. And what I also do hope too is that this is a good character motivation, or I really do hope in season 3, Hunter has better of a character motivation, and I also really do hope he does kind of get some development. Basically, could this be his turning point of where basically we all know that throughout the Bad Batch series that there's this secret clone rebellion that is forming, but the Bad Batch have really nothing to do with it. How about here, Hunter decides, we're going to join that fight. He's basically going to go, I have to imagine Hunter is going to go back to Coruscant so they can go with Rex and basically say, hey, Rex, we're going to join this fight, and we need to get Omega back. And then we get a whole bunch of other clones. We're going to get Rex, Hauser, we got Gregor, we got some of the other clones. Hopefully Wolf can appear in the next season. What happened to Cody? It's just, I don't know, there's a lot of open ends that need to be tied up in the next season. But for what we got, this was a very great finale to a series that at first really I didn't really care for, but now my opinion has really has changed on these characters and on this season. So I really do have to say, they did a great job with this season. Overall, they just did a really great job. And I really do hope we get to see more, of course. But, I mean, we're probably not going to get the next one. I hope we do not have to wait long, at least until next year, basically. But anyways, though, guys, tell me all what you thought of this season overall. Did you like it? Did you dislike it? What was your favorite moment from this season? Personally, for me, I loved seeing Cody again. And there was a lot of great episodes here. And I really am excited to see what happens with the Bad Batch. So come back, of course, by tomorrow or by the next couple days, I'll upload my episode review of the recent episode of Mando, since there's some big stuff in there that we have to talk about. And Bryce Dallas Howard is cooking this week. So we're going to see what she has in store for us. See you all later, and we'll talk about the Bad Batch pretty soon, I think.